June 2nd, the New York Post put up an article. They embedded it on Twitter as well. It says Hasan Piker's seedy, sex obsessed life, soliciting nudes, list of best breast, and a separate laptop for porn. So the whole piece, and obviously let's just call it what it is. The New York Post has an axe to grind with Hasan. They can't stand him. He's a socialist, he's a communist. They don't like him whatsoever. He's very critical of the president. He said America deserves 9/11 in the past. So the original post from the New York Post went viral. 23,000 likes, 16 million impressions on X. Everyone was paying attention to this. Everyone wanted to read this story. Twitter, in some communities, they really like Hasan, and in other communities, they can't stand him. He is highly polarizing. So I believe I found his burner account because for whatever reason, I'm looking through the replies because I want to get a sense of what the market thinks. I want to see what do people say, on the left? What are people saying on the right? Are there certain points they're coming to agreement on? And I'm going through these replies, and all of a sudden I see a comment. And of course, it's from an account, a sock puppet account that has no picture, it has no banner, and it's a generic name with a bunch of numbers after it. It's literally like a KD burner account kind of thing. Just for context, people, the account is following 937 people with 29 followers. It doesn't have a single post on the account. And all the replies, if you go back, and I want all you to do this if you're interested on X, if you go to all the replies that this account has, they're all related to Hasan. So I'm like, what the fuck? What did I just find this guy's burner account? This is insane. So it replied to the New York Post article, fighting in the comments, very vocal. And the account's name is, and it'll probably change after I put this video up here because that's how things typically roll. It's Jesse, and it's JESSE 235-14962. And the account was created in February of 2017. So I replied in the thread, I said, I found Hasan's burner account, LOL. 108,000 views now at this point, dozens of likes, dozens of people saved it. All right, so the first response from this burner account, he says, LOL, can't never argue without talking about dicks. What keywords did you type to find that GIF? And that was in response to a video of Hasan at Delaney Hall, where he was there to protest the ICE raids and deportations that are going on over there. That was in Jersey, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. The next post was him responding to Met Gala. He was, I guess, doing like a live reaction of people at the Met Gala. And then again, Jesse 235-14962 says, how the hell do these people that don't like him have all these random ass saved videos? What the fuck? All right. So then, yeah, so those were two cases. I attached screenshots. If you guys want to go look, you could just go to my replies. It's like one of my more recent replies on X. So anyway, I found Hasan's burner and everyone thought it was hilarious. So that was a solid W. Give myself a fucking W for that. Hasan, I found your burner. Get fucked. I want to get into a different guy who's big online. A guy that you may remember, maybe you don't remember him. He was huge when I was a youngster, back in the day, back in the Wild West days of YouTube and the internet. PewDiePie. PewDiePie came out and he released his own free open source self-hosted AI workspace called Odysseus. And it's on GitHub. You go on there, you can fucking download this shit and run it for free. It is pretty awesome. And the way that it was described to me, is that it is basically a private version of ChatGPT that runs local to your computer. There's no cloud, there's no tracking. And it debuted with the line, in quotes, the war on big tech has just begun. Let's fucking go. A PewDiePie getting into the AI game was not on my fucking bingo card for 2026. I mean, this is absolutely insane. The guy conquered YouTube, took over, #1 most subscribed, ended up losing to T-Series because YouTube didn't want him as the top guy anymore because they felt he was way too controversial. So they fucking railroaded him, which, by the way, I'll explain that for a second. For those of you who don't know, maybe you weren't online like me, or you're just not chronically online and not informed on the lore, but PewDiePie was the #1 most subscribed YouTuber for the longest time, right? And there was this other channel that was up and coming called T-Series. And T-Series was a corporation that was based in India. And what was going on was every time someone would create a YouTube account in India, they would automatically be subscribed to T-Series. So YouTube deliberately did that, in my opinion, allegedly, metaphysically, hypothetically, in a vacuum in a video game. YouTube allegedly did that to railroad PewDiePie so he wouldn't be the face of YouTube anymore because they already dropped him. You know, he had his own YouTube Red show, which was like YouTube Red was like they were trying to compete with like Netflix and do their own shows with like specific talent, things like that. I think it was called Scare PewDiePie or something like that to that effect. I could be completely wrong and talking out of my ass, but they basically wanted him gone because it was at the point where they were losing advertisers and they didn't want him as the top guy anymore. PewDiePie's Odysseus had 30,000 GitHub stars in 48 hours, which is more than most startups you'll see. I mean, this is nuts. The internet loves this. They reviewed it. It's open source. It's completely free. Everyone that has the actual hardware and the tech to do this, you can run AI agents. You could have them schedule emails, manage your calendar, model comparison. I mean, one of the other features I thought was pretty interesting that was highlighted here is that there's this cookbook mode that picks the best AI model for your hardware. So it scans the hardware that you're using and picks the best AI model for you to use. So we're literally at the point where the guy who got famous for screaming and overreacting while playing video games is now competing with Silicon Valley AI startups that are worth hundreds of billions or in Anthropic's case, trillions of dollars. It is bananas where we are right now. So big credit to PewDiePie. I mean, awesome work that he's doing. This is what we really need, you know. And with AI, I actually just heard something pretty recently that Dario from Anthropic, he's actually petitioning the government to have a freeze put on AI development. And he's saying, oh, it's because of AI safety. And, you know, oh, we need to really be careful because AI can get out of control, which I actually agree with that sentiment. I think AI can get out of control. I could totally foresee a future where it can become sentient and turn on humans. That's a real thing. Like Skynet, I mean, that's literally the plot of the Terminator. Like Skynet turns on fucking people. AI could do that, right? Or like the Matrix, where they need power sources, so then they end up using human beings as like batteries to power their fucking machines. Like that shit could happen. Like, let's not rule that out. The odds of that happening are not zero, right? It's not zero, so it's possible. It's definitely fucking possible. Dario and Anthropic, they petitioned the Trump administration and the federal government to stop AI development. They were like, we need to halt AI development because things are getting out of control. Oh, AI safety and yada, yada, yada. But what is funny is that he's actually being disingenuous in presenting a good point. He's being disingenuous because now what they want to do, called regulatory capture, they want to raise the barrier to entry. So now you're not dealing with a free market anymore. You're dealing with an oligopoly, meaning you have a few different entities that control everything, right? Because if you have to think of it like this, Anthropic, OpenAI, Meta, Google, all these companies have virtually endless money. They can hire endless employees. They can do endless research. They can parse through endless data. So because of that, they're going to be able to build the best AI models. And if they raise the barrier of entry to building these AI models, guys like me, guys like you, people you know, maybe we wouldn't be able to build a business. We wouldn't be able to get into that space. So a really good example of this is like, look at the airline industry, for example, let's say. And the airline industry, they operate on like razor thin margins. If you ever want to start a business where you bust your ass, you don't make any money, and you just deal with constant fucking headaches, go into the airline industry. Literally, most airlines go under, right? And they have to constantly be bailed out by the government because without that, they would cease to exist because they literally don't make any fucking money. So the airline industry is a good industry. It's like, try starting an airline company right now. You can't. You literally can't. You can't start an airline company because you have to think of, okay, I need planes. I need a constant source of jet fuel. I need to be able to buy options to hedge on the futures for jet fuel. So if the price of jet fuel goes up, I need to be able to lock in at a certain price because if the price of jet fuel goes up too much, now we're hemorrhaging money. We're losing money. So they buy futures, right? So Like, there are so many moving parts that you literally cannot start an airline company. And that's what's going on with AI right now. So I love what PewDiePie is doing and building this AI workspace. He even got to a point where he was doing like performance tests against ChatGPT and against Anthropic's Claude model and Opus, and it was outperforming. I mean, it was winning. And there was even a funny story that he told in a recent YouTube video where he's like, "Oh, I almost burned my fucking house down." Like he was going for it, you know. It's sort of like he's in the end game, and now he's doing all the side quests. It's like became number one most subscribed YouTuber, ended up, stepping away for a while, started a family, moved to Japan. So he's out of the public eye, not really around so much. Gets into AI, builds this awesome AI workspace tool. The dude's just completing side quests and he's just lapping everyone. His impact is insane. He's the man. So the other story I really got to get into now is about prediction markets. I mean, prediction markets are everywhere. They're so fucking inescapable. If you go on X, you could literally see so many accounts that are sponsored by Kalshi, Polymarket. It's just insane. You could basically gamble on anything now at this point. Back in the day, there used to be only one place you can go to. It was called Predicted. And that was the way that you can bet on politics, right? Because legally you weren't able to bet on politics, but it was like you were able to buy futures for like a penny or for like 80 cents or however much. And then they would appreciate up to 99 cents and then you dump them. So it's like, okay, that totally makes sense, right? So you could bet on like, this is way back in the day. You'd be able to go on predictit.org and you could bet Trump to win. You could bet, whatever, Harris to win, Biden to win, whatever. You guys get the point. Some of these prediction markets that are being built are based around things that people can openly manipulate. So let me give you an example. With Predictit, the difference was with the election, especially with the presidential election, you and I couldn't manipulate that. Like, there's not really anything you or I could do where we could manipulate a mayoral election or a Senate race or the presidential election or a gubernatorial race. Like individually, people can't really do shit. Now, could like the mob or like organized crime get involved and potentially manipulate things? Yeah, sure. Like we saw that. That's how Kennedy got in. That's how JFK got in and RFK got in because the mob helped them get in and they rigged the votes in Illinois. I don't know if you guys know much about George Santos, but he is like one of the funniest people in Congress ever. He completely lied. He was like, "Oh yeah, I worked at Goldman Sachs. I worked at this shop. Blah blah blah. I'm a Wall Street veteran." He was a fucking cable repairman. That was the first lie. Then he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish." And then people were like, "You're not Jewish. We looked at your heritage. There's no one in your family that's Jewish." And he goes, "I'm not Jewish. I'm Jew-ish." Like meaning he's kind of like Jew adjacent. Like he feels like he's Jewish. How he acts, which is insane. Then they have photos of him where he's like, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend or my wife, blah blah," and it's like he's dressed as a woman. He's in a dress. He is in drag or whatever they call it. So I think the dude's probably gay. Then he allegedly embezzled campaign money for his election. He was from Long Island, but he allegedly embezzled campaign money and used it to simp for women on OnlyFans. And he actually went to prison for that. And then I believe Trump commuted his sentence, so he was only in prison for like 8 months or something like that. Whatever he says is completely wrong. He is so full of shit. Everything's fake. He publicly tweeted that he was going to go to the State of the Union. He was like, "Guys, I'm going to the State of the Union. I'm going to go see Trump, blah, blah, blah." And then guess what? Behind closed doors, he bet no and then didn't go to the State of the Union. So he basically insider traded on the fact that he wasn't going to attend the State of the Union. So as a response, Kalshi froze his account and referred him to the Department of Justice and the CFTC. Santos publicly claimed on his podcast that he could not attend due to a delayed flight. He even called the prediction markets easy to manipulate, which is not something that someone who means well should say. The other thing is that he also was sponsored by Polymarket and they immediately dropped him. I laid this out in episode 1 and episode 2, I believe. The US went into Venezuela and captured Maduro and brought him back to New York where he was charged by the Southern District. So this special forces soldier, he signed an NDA with the federal government that he was going to take part in this Maduro raid. So what did he do? He opened an account with Polymarket and he bet on Maduro being out by January 31st, 2026. and that US forces would be in Venezuela by January 31st, 2026. And guess what? This soldier ended up profiting and making $409,000. It is insane. And obviously he was criminally charged because he actually jeopardized this operation and he traded on insider information. So these are the unintended consequences of having these prediction markets. Like people can bet on everything. They can bet on the weather, they can bet on the temperature. There was even a story where someone went over to like a weather monitoring facility and used a hair dryer to manipulate the temperature being recorded so that his bet would win on Polymarket. Like this is how crazy this is. People don't understand. This is insanity. People are just insider trading. It is insanity. There was a Google engineer that bet on Google's own search data. So Google, every year they put out a year in search results. And this guy, he was a Google software engineer. He leveraged Google's own internal data to bet on Polymarket, and he ended up winning $1.2 million. Google said it was a serious breach of the company's internal policy. And Polymarket took a victory lap for helping to catch him. And as far as another story that I have here about people exploiting things, more specifically, people exploiting technology. So Zcash is a privacy coin. It's designed to be completely untraceable, and people are able to do commerce and no one will be able to see, you're the one moving money around. But here's the craziest thing. There was a critical bug that lived deep within Zcash's privacy tool dating back to 2022, and no one detected it. It was completely undetected until last week. And this bug allowed for an unlimited amount of counterfeit Zcash to be minted. It was completely untraceable due to the fact that it was a privacy coin. And the guy that found it was just someone dicking around with AI. He was using Claude Opus 4.8, just dicking around with AI, seeing, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So it was a security researcher that found it, and he found it within 48 hours of the model's release. And we know Anthropic came out and said Mythos is going to result in just like total cataclysmic event for cybersecurity infrastructure stocks like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto networks, because supposedly Mythos can find zero-day exploits where it's like people just say to Mythos, oh, analyze this cybersecurity infrastructure. And it's like, boom, just finds the bug and can immediately be exploited and everything can be hacked. So this is a major issue. So we're in a situation right now where there are, in theory, an unlimited amount of counterfeit Zcash that have been minted, and they're completely untraceable. So this is crazy. This could be the end of crypto. Like people don't understand this. Crypto is it's very binary. There's proof of stake and proof of work, right? But this really could be the end of crypto. The reason Bitcoin works is that it can't be counterfeited. It's this idea that I have money, it's digital money, it's completely immutable. All the transactions are logged on the blockchain. It cannot be counterfeited, it cannot be stolen. It's like virtually impossible to get access to someone's crypto wallet, especially if it's a cold wallet, because you have to guess the seed phrase, which could be 25 words that you randomly have to guess and completely guess in the right order. It's like virtually impossible to crack these fucking cold wallets. So, and this is a bigger existential threat for crypto, and it's called Q-Day. And it's this idea that at some point, quantum computers at peak operational efficiency can crack all existing cybersecurity infrastructure. That would mean every crypto wallet, every bank, every government system. Google's claiming they think that it can happen as soon as 2029, which is way earlier than people expect. But the reality is, the way that quantum computing is growing, we really don't have any idea. So remember what I said about the seed phrase? You have your 25 words in a cold Bitcoin wallet. No one can hack it. No one can get into it. Well, guess what? People can, because if they use a quantum computer, they'll be able to figure it out. In fact, it wasn't even that long ago that Google's flagship quantum chip called Willow, it's a 105 qubit quantum processor that solves problems by significantly reducing quantum errors. It solved the benchmark calculation in under 5 minutes, right? And just for context, a classical supercomputer like IBM Watson, it would have taken it 10 septillion years. Okay. So I don't know if you understand how big the number septillion is. It's literally bigger than quadrillion. And it solved this equation in 5 minutes. And bad actors are going to be able to crack encrypted data. And we all know Bitcoin is built on SHA-256, the SHA-256 hashing algorithm, which was created by the NSA. Who's to say, like, if SHA-256 gets cracked, then what happens to Bitcoin? If Bitcoin's vulnerable, well, there goes the use case. If it can be counterfeited, there goes the use case. So we are entering a very crazy point with this technology, and everyone needs to be alert. We're going to get to a point where the best layer of encryption is going to be pen and paper. You're going to have to just write your password down on a piece of paper because it can't be hacked. So it's so funny. We're going to go full circle. We're going to go from writing things down on a piece of paper to putting them on a computer to encrypting them on a computer to then saying, oh, well, all encryption can be cracked. So now I'm back to writing things down on a piece of paper. All right. So Caleb Hammer, the guy who hosts Financial Audit on YouTube, maybe you've seen him. People refer to him as the Jerry Springer of personal finance. I think it's pretty fitting. He brings these people in. They sign, a ton of paperwork and legal documents, and they're allowed to be insulted and shit on by him for content purposes. And he seems like a big boy. He also gets shitted on by some of these people too. They'll try to push back and argue with him, but he reviews their personal finances, gives people advice because a lot of Americans do not have their shit together when it comes to finances. And we know this because most Americans cannot even cover a $500 emergency expense that comes up. Most people, if you actually look at like median 401k or median IRA balance by age, most people are way far behind. They're not going to be able to retire. The only chance they have to retire is Social Security, which we know the funds are going to run out in like 2033. And that's going to be a whole nightmare that we're going to have to face within our lifetime. So anyway, Caleb Hammer was on Rogan, and he actually went on to explain how easy it is to retire a multimillionaire in the country. And I think this is worth listening to. I did mention, like focus on making more money, focus on investing and trying to get ahead. And, people don't want to hear that. They want to just blame other people for their issues. Like, I know people who blame politicians for every issue in their life. And I think it's kind of pathetic, to be honest with you, because you're pinning all the reasons for your shortcomings on someone that doesn't even know you exist. I'm going to repeat that because I think that is so important to say again. When you sit there and you go, Trump is the reason that I'm not successful. Biden is the reason I'm not successful. Newsom is the reason I'm not successful. DeSantis is the reason I'm not successful. All you're doing is you're pinning your shortcomings, your personal shortcomings on someone that doesn't know you exist. How can someone that doesn't know you exist negatively impact your life to the point where you're not able to get anything done and live up to your full potential or strive to live up to your full potential? People just want to pass the buck. It's so easy to sit there and be like, I'm a loser because of this person. This person has money, fuck them. They're the reason I don't have money. It's like, no, you could build yourself up too. That's the beautiful thing. That's why this country works. That's why capitalism works. Capitalism works because I can come up with an app where a good design and market it. And if it's a good product or service that provides value to people, they're going to use it. And then I get paid and I make money. And you could do that too. You could work with people. It's never been easier to build an app or service if you want. Everyone's online, right? So I'm only talking from a somewhat younger person's perspective on like building an app or building a business or building a service. Like, it's easy to do. You can use AI and build some of these things. Basically, this guy made a game where the game accesses your webcam, right? And it has like motion sensors built into it where you hold your hands in front of you and you hold your hands in front of you palm up and you juggle your hands up and down doing the 6-7 thing, and it counts how many times you do 6-7, 6-7, 6-7. And he charged money for it, and he made a shitload of money. Like, the kid became a millionaire because he just designed an app that accesses your webcam and has a motion sensor and counts how many times you fucking put your hands up and down to do the 6-7 thing. Like, that's a goofy app. That's a stupid app, right? You're not really solving anything, but people want have fun. You could even go into like that. To me is entertainment. You could do what I'm doing and you host a podcast or you do YouTube videos or anything else. So I'm rambling right now. I really want to get into this video, but it's just I get so frustrated with the fact that, I can understand you're down or you weren't born into like the perfect set of circumstances. Some people, let's just keep it 1,000 here. Some people are born on third base headed home. Like, they don't have to do anything. They literally have their life handed to them on a silver platter, and I understand where the frustration comes from with that. Life's not fair, so now what? What do we do? How do we get ahead? What's the fucking plan, right? What do we do about our situation? Let's turn inward. Let's focus on ourselves. Where do we go from here? What's the fucking plan? How do we get ahead?
The average salary in 1990 was $21,000.
It's crazy.
Isn't that nuts? Imagine if someone told you had to live off $21,000 today. You'd be like, "Oh, fuck."
And yeah, even still, they could retire multimillionaires. Even still, even with that. Honestly, low cost index funds. I'm sure you got a money guy, but for the average American, there's these target date retirement funds. So Fidelity or whatever you want to use, they have essentially just pick like within the 5 years that you think you're going to retire, you just buy into that and it balances it for you. It goes more aggressive now and just more conservative by the time you retire. It's so easy. There's no reason most people like aren't doing it, even in their 401k where it's free money matches and everything. It it doesn't really make sense.
All right, so Caleb's point is super accurate because even a company like Fidelity, they have a zero cost total market index fund that you can buy that over the life of this fund, which it was rolled out in 2019, the life of the fund on average, the annual return is 14.6%. So it's basically the S&P 500, but then also you have mid caps and small caps in there, value and growth. So you just own a piece of every single publicly traded company for this total stock market index fund. And it's the ticker, for those of you who are interested, it's FZROX. This is not financial advice, of course, but this is a good way to get into the market. And the current price on this fund is $26. If you really think about what I'm telling you, you can invest in the American economy with as little as $26, leave it alone, and 40 years from now, it'll be worth a lot more. Let's go further into the weeds, just a little bit for a couple of seconds here. I'm looking at a compound interest calculator. Let's assume you start with $0, okay? Now let's say that from age 25 to age 65, you save $5,000 a year. I think that's somewhat attainable for most people because $5,000 a year is less than $500 a month. If you get paid twice a month, that's $250 out of every paycheck, right? So let's say you save $5,000 a year. Okay. And we said you're going to do it from 25 to 65. So you're going to do it for 40 years and you're going to get the 100-year average annual return of the US stock market adjusted for dividends reinvested and inflation. And this also accounts for the crash of 1929 because we're in 2026. So 100 years ago is 1926. So 3 years after that is 29, which is the Great Depression, of course. So the 100-year average annual return of the US stock market adjusted for dividends reinvested in inflation is 7%. You start out with $0. Every year you save 5,000. You do it for 40 years. You get a 7% return. How much money do you have? And again, this is adjusted for inflation. How much money do you have? $1,068,047.85. You literally become a fucking millionaire just from saving $5,000 a year for 40 years, getting a 7% return. People are even more bullish on the S&P 500, particularly with AI rollout and some of the new technology that's coming down the hopper. So coming down the pipe. So another thing is like with quantum computers. Okay, so let's say maybe we see 13% gross returns on S&P 500, right? So again, start out with $0, save $5,000 a year. You do that every year for 40 years. And now in this case, we'll assume you get 10% return per year instead of 7. Watch the difference. So at 7%, it was $1,068,047.85. Now at 10%, it's $2,434,259.06. So you literally end up with 2.4 times more money. I mean, that is how robust the economy is. Anyone can make money through the market. It is very simple. It's very easy. There are free resources everywhere. You just need to get into the market. Dollar cost average. Every time you get paid, you buy into the market. Market's up. I got paid buying in. I got paid, market's down, buying in. You just constantly buy in and you come up with a game plan, and that is how you're going to get ahead. You need to plan. You can't aimlessly fucking wander through life. If you're a fat fuck and you want to lose weight, you need a plan. You're not going to just come across a lamp, rub the fucking lamp, and a genie's going to come out and grant you 3 wishes, and you're going to go, I want to be, shredded. That's not how the world works. People don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan. Is Twitch finally stopping Viewbotter? Which would be fucking awesome if this is the case. So CEO of Twitch, Dan Clancy, announced that Twitch is taking aggressive anti-viewbotting measures and capping concurrent viewer counts on channels that have been persistently botting. FaZe Banks, all of a sudden, he ran into this problem. FaZe Banks came out of the woodwork recently, and now he has this new podcast he's hosting. I think he's got a co-host on there. It's called Market Bubble, and they're talking, social media. They're talking crypto, whatever. FaZe Banks, we know he's in crypto, things like that. I mean, this was crazy. So he went from getting 30,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch to, with this new measure that was put in place, he was dropped to 2,000 viewers. And you may be saying, why is Twitch implementing this now? And that's a great question, because they're not really in the business of stopping people from viewbotting, because they take these inflated analytics. They go, look, these analytics are legit. We have a third party that checks them. And then they go to the advertisers and go, look at how much Twitch is growing. Twitch is the biggest thing since sliced bread. And then advertisers go, shut up and take more of my money. Here you go. Shut up and take my money. Like from Futurama, shut up and take my money. Twitch is not in the business of stopping people from viewbotting, because they take these inflated fake analytics and they're able to command more advertising revenue. So they don't care. They don't care if people bot. And the problem is that people will use bots and they'll inflate their numbers to the top. And they'll inflate their numbers to the point where they collaborate with real people, and then a portion of the people's real audience that they built will go over to the guy with inflated fake ass analytics. The guy who totally faked, that faked it until he made it, he'll end up getting real viewers and building a real audience from collaborating with someone who actually built the audience, when he built his whole thing on these fucking bot farms, pretty much. Like, let's just call it what it is. If you think that FaZe Banks, who hasn't been online and hasn't really had much of a presence after all the FaZe guys ended up leaving and after falling out with Aiden Ross, he's going to go live for the first time in 9 months or 8 months and pull 30K viewers, I have a bridge to sell you. There's no fucking chance. Dude would be lucky if he pulls like 5K. Like, it's not going to happen.
Appreciate you. I mainly just wanted to go live to just hold myself accountable and live up to what I promised you guys, which is I'm going to be live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Didn't have to go live. We don't have a show planned. They all told me we're good. Don't worry about it. We'll go live next Thursday. And I said, no, you know what? I want to show up to the set. I want to go live. So for anybody who's been tuning in or supporting the show, supporting me, supporting the stream, I appreciate you. Just know how much I appreciate you. Follow the Twitter and let me know. Yeah. Sorry for the short stream. I just really wanted to spark up just to show you guys that I'm here and showing up. So yeah, with that being said, we'll be live for probably 4 or 5 hours next. And
he's got headphones on, someone's in his ear, maybe the show producer, and he's like, hey, we were botting and, oh, they capped our viewership, blah, blah, the bots aren't working anymore. I think that's probably what happened. They're getting pressure from advertisers, if I had to guess, and that's why they're capping people who are consistent viewbotters. It totally makes sense, but they're really sort of playing both sides here, because they don't care that people bot, because now they have these inflated metrics. And I've said this like 3 times at this point, but now they can take these inflated metrics presented to advertisers and command more advertising revenue. So in one sense, they don't want to stop people from viewbotting. And then on the other hand, they know that advertisers are coming to them and going, hey, we're seeing that the numbers you're presenting to us show that more people are active on Twitch, but we're not seeing more conversion. So what do I mean by that? In statistics and analytics, you have this concept. It's called law of large numbers. And the idea is that if I contact 1 million people, right, I'm going to get like a 1% response rate. So whatever 1% of 1 million is, that's what I'm going to get as a response. I think it's 10,000. So that means I get 10,000 replies, right? So if I reach 2 million people, I'll get 20,000 replies. So in Twitch's case, they went from, let's say, I'm going to pull another number out of my ass, let's say Twitch at any given point in time on their site prior to this giant wave of view bots coming in had, I don't know, 1 million people on there. And all of a sudden they spike in viewership because of people using ViewBots to 2 million. Well, now advertisers that are paying streamers for, for these ad spots or paying Twitch for these ad spots, they're like, well, now you have twice as many people, but we're still seeing the same conversion. Now, the math ain't mathing, because the idea is that if we have more people on a site, we're going to see more conversion, right? We're going to see higher click-through rates. We're going to see, more conversions on people fucking buying shit. But guess what? It's not happening because the people aren't fucking real. So if the people aren't real, they're not going to click the link and they're not going to buy anything because they're not a real account. It's a fake account. It's a stream farm. So that's what's going on with Twitch. And Kick faces the same fucking problem. All these live streaming platforms face the same problem, and they will continue to face the same problem until they want to confront the fact that people are inflating their fucking numbers. And it is kind of fucked up because you're stealing the opportunity away from people who are doing it legit and trying to grind it out. You're basically faking your success. That's what you're doing. You're pretending to be successful. You're pretending to be something you're not, and you're stealing the opportunity away from someone that's doing it legit and grinding it out. It's like competing in the Olympics where you've been training your whole fucking life for the Olympics, and someone just sticks a needle in their arm and juices the fuck up for the Olympics and then just smokes you in the race or smokes you in powerlifting or whatever you're competing in. It is not even remotely level. I'm not going to get into that, but if you go on Botted, BOTTED.WTF, you could put in anyone's name, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, fucking whatever, punch their name, Rumble, punch their name in. You could pull up their channel and you could see the likelihood that they're botting, and it's like all the top 50.